Hello everyone, this is Stephen Balch, your instructor for Introduction to Macroeconomics at Ozarka College. Today what I'd like to do is give you just a little bit of feedback on the chapters 5 and 6 activities that I finished grading yesterday. And then I'm going to tell you a little bit about what we've got coming up due for our next set of activities for chapters 7 through 9. Alright? So the first thing is, like I said, I did finish grading the chapters 5 and 6 activities yesterday. If you haven't already done so, go ahead and look at your grades for those activities and read the grading comments that I left for you. And let me know if you have any questions at all. I'll be happy to answer any questions that you have. Overall, most of you did well on the chapters 5 and 6 assignment. And I really appreciate those of you that are putting the time and effort in. I did notice a few of you didn't read the questions carefully, and you didn't answer all the parts of each question, so I did have to count some points off there. And I did notice that some of you, I think, waited too late to get started, and you just had to kind of do what you could get done. And, you know, the best way to solve that problem is to get started earlier, obviously. So that's what I would recommend on that. But like I said, overall, most of you did well. Really appreciate those of you that are showing the calculations on the problems for the assignments. I really appreciate that. Just let me know, like I said, after you read the grading comments, just let me know if you have any questions at all, and I'll be happy to answer any questions that you have. The discussion that we had for chapters 5 and 6 that dealt with the Consumer Price Index, or CPI. I thought that went very well. I really appreciate everyone's participation on the discussion. Hopefully you learned some things from that discussion, ways that you can apply what you're learning in class, the concepts you're learning about, and apply them to real-world situations. So keep up the good work on the discussions as well. On the chapter test, most of you did well on that. Just as a reminder, you can take those tests as many times as you want to up until the due date, and your highest grade is automatically recorded. So just kind of keep that in mind. All right, so that brings us to what we've got coming up due for our next set of activities. So if you'll notice on the activities page in my Ozarka, right now we are on the middle portion of week 5 of the semester. Okay? We've still got a few days left in this particular week. We don't have anything else due this week because we just had work due earlier this week. But our next set of activities is actually due next week, which specifically is going to be Thursday, February 19th. So you've got just a little over a week to be working on and getting the chapter 7 through 9 activities submitted. Now, let me tell you a little bit about chapter 7 through 9. Chapter 7, to start with, that covers inflation. All right? We've already talked about inflation in very generic terms, very simplistic terms. But in chapter 7, that's where we're going to devote a whole chapter to talking about what inflation is, how we calculate it, how the government tries to manage inflation, and some of the tools that they use to do that. So in chapter 7 specifically, we're going to be looking at price stability, which, remember, if you remember from the 3 goals of the economy that we looked at previously in previous chapters, one of those was price stability. And so that's one of the things that obviously chapter 7 will cover, is how the federal government manages inflation and tries to keep prices stabilized. All right? And so that's chapter 7. And of course, going into a little bit further with price stability and how the government manages that, they do that both through fiscal and monetary policies. And that's something that you'll learn about as we go through chapter 7. All right, chapter 8 covers another one of the goals of the economy, which is full employment. But specifically in Chapter 8, we're going to look at one of the problems in trying to have full employment in the economy, which is unemployment. There are 4 sources of unemployment that we'll look at. So Chapter 8 basically deals with, again, another one of those management tools or goals that the government is trying to stay on top of when coming up with the monetary and fiscal policies. All right. So in Chapter 8 specifically, you're going to learn about the unemployment rate and how it's calculated. You'll learn about, again, the 4 sources of unemployment that I just talked about. You'll learn about unemployment compensation as well. And again, just like I said a few minutes ago, full employment is one of the goals that the federal government is trying to achieve, okay, through its policies. All right. Chapter 9 deals with another of the 3 goals of the federal government in managing the economy, which is trying to stimulate economic growth, okay, trying to grow the economy. And so Chapter 9 covers productivity and growth. So in Chapter 9, we'll revisit something we've already talked about, something called the Production Possibilities Frontier, or curve as it's sometimes called. And we'll look at how we can look at the production possibilities curve or frontier as a way to kind of assess how much growth we are experiencing in the economy and how much production we're capable of with the resources that we have available. All right. So Chapter 9, again, deals with productivity and growth. You'll also in that chapter learn about the methods that we can use to measure economic productivity and growth. Of course, one of those we've already looked at, which is GDP, or gross domestic product, but there's some other ones as well, and different ways that we can actually measure GDP. There are different methods that you can use. All right, and so you'll learn about that in Chapter 9. So these topics that are covered in Chapters 7 through 9 are going to be kind of the framework for other concepts, other terms that we're going to learn later on in the semester. So it's very critical that you understand, you take your time to really understand the concepts in Chapters 7 through 9, because these, again, are going to be the basic concepts you're going to need to know to be able to understand concepts that we'll look at later on in the semester. All right? So remember, as you're working on those Chapters 7 through 9 activities, remember the resources you have. Of course, you have your textbook. You have the PowerPoint slides that I've posted on the assignment page in Miles Arca. You've also got the videos that I've linked at the bottom of the assignment page. So make sure you're using all those resources effectively. And most of you, I think, are doing that, but there are a few of you that I think are relying way too much on external sources and things like AI and not enough on going through the actual sources that are assigned. So just kind of be aware that it's really important to use the assigned resources, okay? And that's really all I have for you for today. So be working on those. Like I said, let me know if you have questions. And other than that, enjoy your weekend, and I will talk to you again sometime. If it's not next week, it'll be early the following week. Okay? I'll talk to you then.